he doesn't give you too much that you can't bear. And she said, you have a purpose in this life, and the life that you was living wasn't what you was destined to do. So think of it as him waking you up. Failure, everyone says failure, help you rise. And I believe that. So I think some people just got to be willing to get into that uncomfortable setting. When you comfortable because you don't want to fail and take that risk, you're not going to feel that uplift to get out of it. Oh, what's going on, everybody?
We love you, Wesley. Woo!
There was a debate about whether you were a late sleeper or an early riser, and I think a lot of people know you get up early and work out. So
I did. I trained with my trainer at 7 a.m. So I had to freshen up and stuff. But hello. Yeah, what's going on? How are you, Randy?
good. How about you?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Of course, the world is going through its motions, but I think I'm in the right position, so it feels good. It feels good because I feel like I'm a part of change, right? Like, and so that's what it feels like. Like I can really assist now with the things and the knowledge that I know. So it's been good.
That's awesome, and this is a chance for all of us as leaders to help make change and make our community better. And I know there are a lot of people on this call with big hearts that are trying to do that every day, and you are one of them.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to have you on here.
All right, cool. So I'll be brief now. All right, so you guys, my name is Wesley Hamilton. I am the founder of a local nonprofit here in Kansas City, Missouri, called the Disabled But Not Really Foundation. The way my organization was founded was basically I was shot 8 years ago. I took multiple gunshot wounds to my abdomen, which left me with a spinal cord injury. So I've been paralyzed from the waist down, which was told for the rest of my life. So, of course, we just had a conversation about working out, right? So, at the time of my injury, I was overweight. I never worked out. I never ate like a healthy life. I wasn't part of a healthy lifestyle. And but so basically I was defeated, you guys. I overcame so many struggles of depression, being overweight because I have a 10-year-old daughter now, but she was 2 at the time of my accident. So in the process of me not really accepting who I am, I had this little girl I had to live for. And so that allowed me to do things I never thought I could do. I ended up on bed rest for 2 years, which meant 21 hours a day in a bed. And that gave me a lot of time to think, a lot of time to focus on my life, become who I wanted to be. Because at this time, I didn't have an identity. I was 24 when I was shot, and prior to me being shot, I lived the life of the streets. I mean, that's all I knew. That's how I grew up. I grew up on the east side of Kansas City. I'm a Kansas City native, so um, that was my identity. I had became a product of my environment. So when I became paralyzed from the waist down, that was not identity that I was okay with, nor could I accept. It took me away from the people that I was comfortable around. So me being uncomfortable and being put on 21 hours a day bed rest made me start to find myself. Well, I ended up, going to school to be a dietitian. For my 3 hours a day I could get out, I went to Johnson County Community College and I learned nutrition, fell in love with it. My last surgery was January 2015. I had lost 100 pounds. I had did something I could never do when I was walking. And so with that, that gave me a different level of mental strength to say that I can overcome anything, any level of adversity, even the circumstances that I grew up into. So with that, I became a better person. And I wanted to start an organization that helped other people with disabilities that felt defeated because of their circumstances and their limitations. So with that, in a hospital bed, I started working on disabled but not really. My goal is just to help people with disabilities have a more active and healthy life. You know, who has kids, who has family, get out there. Don't stay, indoors. Well, what that did was it created just a level of success on me outside of, uh, my organization. I became an adaptive athlete, started competing nationwide in bodybuilding and CrossFit. Um, I've been on national TV, Queer Eye on Netflix, Today Show, Men's Health Magazine. These accomplishments are great, but I've always been a person that said, the only reason why they're there is to show people from my community that they can be that person too. And so that's the person I am, a large advocate for my community, because I changed. I changed my mindset. I changed my life. And that's how I know that other people can change too. My goal is to inspire people to really be who they are and allow the world to accept that.
You told me a couple years ago, and it's probably hard for people to get their head around, that you think that getting shot was the best thing ever happened to you.
Oh man, did they not just hear that? I mean, just through the story, you know what I mean? Like, how can it not be? I mean, I'm not about to. Yes, guys, the guy. I always say that the man that tried to take my life gave me life. And if you haven't watched my Netflix show, I got to face the man that shot me and literally told that man thank you for the life that he's given me, because I mean, as you guys are witnessing and knowing like what's going on with systemic racism and things like that, the level of defeat in poverty neighborhoods, right? That's where I grew up. So I never would have seen this life if it wasn't for him. And I wouldn't be able to show other people from my community about this type of lifestyle and showing them that, hey, all I did was accept who I was and start to push myself for the things I want. Let me teach you that, because you can be whatever you want. All you got to do is overcome those circumstances and adversity that you was born into. And so, yes, that man did the best thing for me. I am not, I don't care about my physical limitation, because if I was never shot, I would probably be dead or in jail. I was hungry for the lifestyle I lived before this.
You said something to me a couple years ago, and I'll never forget it. One of the most inspiring things someone ever asked me was, what are you going to do on the day you realize your excuses don't make any sense? Do you remember that?
Yes.
We all have excuses, and we talked about that you had plenty of excuses to lay in that bed. You had plenty of excuses to not get up and go make a difference in the lives of others. You had reason to feel sorry for yourself. And all of us tend to go through those phases where we can find reasons to feel sorry for ourselves, reasons to feel like, why me? Why would I be able to accomplish anything? But you said the excuses don't make sense.
No, man, it don't. It don't. You put too much energy into excuses that you can put into making something happen. Excuses are draining. It's the same way with the energy that you can use to benefit yourself and your livelihood. Yeah, I know that excuses don't matter, because when I made them, I stayed in the bed 21 hours a day. So personally for me, it didn't benefit me to make excuses, but it did benefit me to go after what I wanted and work hard to get it.
Yeah. Hey, Wes. Thanks for sharing your story and congratulations, man. It's really cool. I saw Drew's group chat question or statement. Consume you or define you, and man, he's spot on. I'm wondering, did faith or religion or God or your God have any role in you kind of helping pull you up and get you headed in the direction or path or your purpose you chose?
Yeah, I truly believe that I've always had faith in, becoming better. Like, I don't think that I had it. I don't think I had any beliefs at the moment of my accident. I had hate toward everybody, right? Like, I was like, why me? I don't think like this was, because I was shot walking to my car. So like for me, it wasn't like an altercation with the man that actually shot me. So I'm like, man, this wasn't even supposed to happen, the altercation. So yes, I lacked faith, but I remember being in the hospital and my one of my cousin's grandmother told me that she used the term. She said, he doesn't give you too much that you can't bear. And she said, you have a purpose in this life, and the life that you was living wasn't what you was destined to do. So think of it as him waking you up, and like a lot of that was always stuck in my head, like, because as I started to push myself, life got better. So faith got better and it grew, and so now I carry my faith on because I know that I am living a plan that was created for me now, and living my purpose in life. So I don't think, yes, to answer your question, it was faith, faith in knowing that someone, has put me in a position to be a vessel.
Thanks, Wesman. That's helpful. And it's certainly not a way or an event or an instance in which you would have chosen to figure out your purpose. But like you said, man, given the alternative, you might have, life would have been a lot different. But I hypothesize there's still a hell of a lot of us running around out there, not even quite sure of our purpose. So congratulations and thank you.
Man, I think sometimes it's just the level of defeat. I think failure helps you find it. So I think some people just got to be willing to get into that uncomfortable setting. When you're comfortable because you don't want to fail and take that risk, you're not going to feel that uplift to get out of it. Because once you get out of it, you're like, okay, now, it got it. So I think that too, defeat, failure. Everyone says failure, help you rise, and I believe that.
Yeah, Wes, thank you. Truly an inspiring story. But the question that I have a family member that's going through some very, very hard times right now, and I what would you say to continually support him? What else can I do to help him?
I think that it might be okay. Is this recent or is it something that's been going on?
It's been going on about 6 months.
Okay, so then it took me 3 years. So for the first year it was blah blah blah. Then it was like I'm gonna do my own thing. Then that kicked me in my butt. So I'm not saying that it would take him that long, but it just takes time for him to be okay with what he sees. Like, I took my first year, I used to beat my legs up every morning. Like I hated this. The pain took over my mind. Like now I let my mind take over the pain. But it was a lot of, I gotta be alone. I gotta look at those four walls. I gotta keep hating myself to love myself. Like after a while, and then you don't want to keep seeing it go downhill. But I know that it will take time. And then if it's not a starting to see a healing process, I would say take the initiative to really just more or less just have that real one-on-one talk. Like, look, man, I don't want to see you go this way. Like my mom had to get real with me one day, and so like I always tell people, if anything, be that vessel for them to vent to you. You see what I mean? Like if anything, say, hey man, I'm done talking, but I know that you're emotional. I know you going through stuff. You know, if I'm here for you, hey, vent to me. You know, my mom told me to vent to her so that I wouldn't take my anger out on nobody else. And so once I started, it was like she allowed it to kind of ricochet. You know, like it just like, and I started to see it come back to me, and I'm like, nah, that ain't good. Is that what I'm giving other people? You know, like, but if you don't have someone that you can have an outlet to, and everybody's telling you the same thing, then you're not going to listen. But if you can go to that one person and vent and say, all right, I heard this from this person, I heard this from this person. You see what I mean? Like that sometimes give them, okay, this person I can talk to because he ain't talking to me. He's letting me talk to him, and then we're having a conversation. You see, so I always try to use that, man, and just kind of open it up like, hey, I don't understand, but I'm listening. I'm ready for you to come at me. You know, give me all you got. You know, I'm ready for it because I need you to know I love you and I want you to do better. So I am here right now for you to give me whatever negativity so that I can help you transform that to something better.
That works. I understand that. Thank you,
You're welcome, man.
Yeah, I love what you're bringing, Wesley. It's really helping my Friday start off to a good place. I think my question is, was there some kind of an aha moment, right? So kind of a little bit piggybacking off of what you just mentioned, but you're laying there and at what point do you remember, kind of cresting that mountain or that peak and getting to the other side, and what was kind of the thought process behind that?
Um, it was just my daughter, like I was so angry with who I had become. She never saw me as somebody different, like, and that, at least my daughter was young. There are people that have injuries whose children are older and it's different, but my daughter was 2 or 3, so she's still kind of developing this, and all she did was call me daddy. She didn't say, "Oh man, with a disability." She didn't say anything. And I remember being in the hospital one day, and I was rolling around, and she said, "Daddy, you in your Superman chair." And that was that aha moment. I'm like, man, I gotta be Superman. She see me as Superman. Like, I might not like Superman. I might be want to be Batman, but but no, seriously, like, I'm like, I gotta be Superman. And I didn't know how to be, man, but it was no other way around it. My daughter, I have sole custody of my daughter, and I had literally got sole custody of my daughter right before my accident. So she was in that next room every day. I'm spurring out that negativity as I'm beating up my leg. So for her to still show love and unconditional love while I'm hating myself, that's all that I had to show me, man. I knew that it was bigger than me now. I had to live for her. What was I gonna do? Try to end my life and let her be even though those were thoughts I had this little girl, and I think that, again, like Curt said, it was something bigger, man. She was put in a position to help me heal through this one.
So 2 things, Wesley, that I think are important. One, can you give people like actionable things like you did for me? You gave me books, like, you probably know what book I'm talking about, that really started, because what he was like, you got to start making changes, and I wanted to be all with me, and he's like, start reading this book right now. And then 2, one of the things that I think people might feel like after they get off here and they go watch your Queer Eye, if they haven't, is you talk about how you forgave the guy and you told him thank you and all that, but the guy was not, like, in all fairness, the guy was not like all hugs and stuff to you, right? Which is like a huge lesson to me. It's always been a good lesson to me on forgiveness. Like, you forgave for you, no matter what his reaction was. So can you kind of speak to that a little bit too?
Yeah. So guys, I'm literally, I'm a huge book reader. I love books. Um, I love books that really attack your mind sometimes, and have some crazy language, but I'll share those in a minute. But the meeting with the man that shot me, I would want people to understand that that was something that was not, you know, in reality supposed to happen, right? Like, that's not something that you see 2 black men do. So like as I'm going in, like I had a death in the family that morning that a lot of people don't know. And so through that process, I am literally not able to grieve until 30 minutes prior to me meeting a man that changed my life forever. I remember calling the producer and telling him I didn't want to do it no more because I was just messed up. And so they told me to go back in the back room of Messenger's Coffee and go pray. And so I went back there and I prayed and I talked, and it was my cousin that I lost. And so I talked to my cousin. I said, I need you by my side because what I'm doing, I think that it has to happen. And so when I went in there, I had mixed emotions as well because this is the first time we've ever faced each other outside of that day. And as people from a particular neighborhood, retaliation would come regardless of the place and time and people. And so I think it was more a chip on each other's shoulder because it's like, all right, we both made the commitment to do this, but I don't know what he's capable of, and I don't know what he's capable of, I just don't know what they're thinking. So if you guys watch, there was a lot of different energy at the beginning, very much so. And so, Aaron, when you say like, yes, I went in to tell him to forgive him, right? Like, and tell him thank you. And I think that we should not, if we're trying to free ourselves and free our minds, we have to let things go. That has to be the strength that we want, because as a person that is paralyzed with a physical limitation, if I never let it go, that man would always have control and I would always be defeated. But when I let it go, if you witness it, it took a weight off of his shoulder. Because again, there was no altercation, but he just did what he felt he was supposed to do. And that put him in a position. And so I think that we all had a moment there of, one, you got to be the bigger person if you are ready to move on with your life. Because if someone has control over you, you're not going to move forward. That day I talked to that man, I freed myself from any mental barrier that had held on to me for 7 years prior. Now when I hear his name, I smile like, man, look what he did for me. You know, if I could see him, like, we don't stay in contact, but if I could see him, it would still be love. I leave it up to God from here on forward, because now I know I did something that I needed to do to free myself. And like I said, Aaron, it freed him too. So sometimes we have to be that stronger person.
Hey, Wesley, wow, your story is amazing. Gosh, that comments you're making on forgiveness, wow, that's huge. Such a lesson for all of us. You know, I know a lot you're talking about is all the physical challenges you've had and overcoming, but really you changed your lifestyle. I mean, that's big, and it's hard to do that because you've probably lost friends, just assuming. What do you do on your hard days to not be tempted to go back to that lifestyle? Is that hard, or how has that been for you?
It's been good. It's not hard at all because we lack representation. And I believe that I was there to represent something different. And I've never changed like my views. I've always stayed authentic, and everyone that's like knows me know that it's always been real. I bettered myself because I needed to. And that allowed me to change my mindset and see a better life. But it never took me away from being able to share that knowledge with the people that I know never received it. Mm-hmm. And so I did lose friends, but guess what? They came back. Mm-hmm. You see, like it's that they had to see how real I was about the change. When people are comfortable around you and you try to shift, everyone shifts because it doesn't seem real at first, because they've always thought you was the person that you was always going to be.
Right.
So when you become somebody different, they don't gravitate to that difference. So they have to, by you being able to be patient with them. And I knew that by this time, I was more than willing to be patient with the people that I was around, and so now, my best friend is my cameraman. You see what I mean? Like, and we were distant for a long time, but now he travels to my speaking engagements. Like I was able to get him through film school, so like it's things like that, it's like I can now bring people back around because now they're ready to change.
That's awesome. Great story. It's almost like it's helped build your confidence. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Oh man, it did. It did. It did, because I think that was something that I lacked growing up. I mean, I never smiled. I never smiled prior to my injury. Like every picture that I have has me with the middle finger up. I don't probably have one picture that doesn't look negative. I did, and I know that was a lot of self-hate. And now, I love everything about myself. I'm on two wheels, and I think that too gives me that confidence, because I'm okay with how people see me, because the way I see myself is amazing.
Wes, I love your spirit. We've all heard the statement to bring your authentic self to work. Where would you say is a good place for a person to start in bringing their best version each day?
Ooh, that's good. That's good, because I truly believe a lot of people put a mask on. I honestly, I say that it starts at home. It starts at home when you look in that mirror and you decide, do you want to be the person that people want you to be, or do you bring the person that you've always been? But you bring that person with a level of confidence, because if you're not confident with who you are, then it brings a negative energy into the space. You're not being your best self. But you have to, I always say, acceptance. I went back to work when I got injured, and I was not my best self. I wasn't authentic. I wasn't anything. I was defeated. Like I just sat in that chair and I just was quiet. If I went back to work now, I'd be the energy. You see what I mean? And so I would say that it literally starts at home. When you put, it's that reflection. And so I always tell people that when you look at your reflection, you have to tell yourself all the affirmations that's going to lead you into a great and positive and productive day. If you don't speak those affirmations early enough to manifest them into your day, then you won't be authentic when you get into it. But it does take practice. It takes routine. It takes early morning getting up. I'm an early morning person. So I think that because I get up early, I allow myself to set the tone for the day. If you wake up 30, 45 minutes prior to going to work, you're not ready. And so I give myself enough time to be able to prepare myself to face-to-face interactions. People that I got to come in, because, once I'm at peace with myself for the morning, oh man, I'm good for the day. But if I'm not ready, then I'm not bringing my authentic self, and I won't have the best, I won't be able to show people who I truly am.
Okay, thank you.
Wes, powerful story, man. Love it. Being a leader in the military for several years, what I really like about this, your whole graduation from where you were to where you are, the positiveness. I mean, what an inspiration to forgiveness, the stimulus of your daughter. And I guess I would like some insights on when you were in the bed, or maybe it was after you came out of the 21 hours in bed. Did you establish sort of envision yourself a long-term vision of what you wanted your life to look like? Were these day-by-day goals? Were there long-term goals? And what did you use to overcome maybe some of those shortfalls that you didn't meet? or how did you reinforce yourself when you achieved certain goals and set higher goals for yourself?
Great question. Well, I think when I was in that hospital bed, creating, what I wanted to do with my organization, I had mapped out a 5 to 10 year plan. At this time, I'm about 26, 27. I also set the tone that I was going to be successful at 35. And so like I started to manifest those things and work towards them. And then I realized that I could be that example. I had to be the example of what I wanted to create. And so that's where that work ethic came in. You talk about shortfalls. I think I wake up every morning having to face the reality that I'm not going to walk. That's the biggest defeat that I have every day. If I can overcome that, then there's no shortfalls that I can't. And so that is the mindset that I wake up with every morning, because like I was just telling Mary, I have to accept my reality too every morning to be authentic. And so that is what allows me to go out and not accept excuses. Even when I hear them come out of my mouth, I'm like, you know what? Nope, I'm gonna make it happen. Right? Like, nope, I hear myself. But the accomplishments that I've made, it doesn't feel that I feel like there are just platforms to share my story to different groups, because my purpose in life is much larger. And it's to spread a message and share my life, right? Like, and share these different levels, like you said, of forgiveness and overcoming, and and growth and positivity. So no, I just look at each accomplishment like, man, this is another door open that's never been open for people like myself, rather it's the disabled community or the Black community. Like, it's a lot of doors that I've opened with the accomplishments that I've made that I feel like I'm a person that's just destined to open up doors for other people. If I can get that door that's always been closed, then I'm gonna go after it. And so that's why I probably got the longest title in the world. You can say, what he do? Do he ever sleep? Like, nope, I'm gonna keep going, man, because I know what it feels like to think that your life is almost over and literally see a life flash in front of you that meant nothing.
Wesley, thanks, man. Your story is obviously awesome, but you also have an incredible perspective that I would love to hear you share about how I believe that we can solve a lot of our problems in the city by people with resources, allocating them in appropriate ways. So given that, in your perspective, how might we break down the barriers of systematic racism and give people in our urban core better opportunities?
Oh, that's good too. I think that there are a great amount of people from that core doing things that other, I guess, people that aren't from there should just support. Like, I think that in meaning that, because representation is what's going to help that growth. And so I see value in that. So I see value in having conversations with people from the core and actually speaking to them from a level of, wanting to help from an empathetic point of view, and then also wanting to learn, right? Like, and so you can grow as well. But I think that it comes from just that hand-in-hand support, and not really just think, like, for instance, I've had a conversation yesterday, and it was just a friend of mine reached out and they wanted to assist and they were going to go into the Corps and do some things. And they didn't have a lot of feedback when they went and did it, you know, and I told them that the communication it needs to be with the community, especially at this time, right? Like conversate with the community, see what organizations, go to some initiatives, go to some meetings. Like yesterday was a rally, you know, that we did that wasn't a protest. It was an informal rally for the community with resources and things. So maybe finding things like that where that you can go to those meetings and kind of get some information of organizations or people that you can be back behind and make that choice that way. Like I literally just think that it's that time to really just find the right information, and so that you can pick and figure out what aligns with your values too, so that it's not like you find passion in it. Like I think more people, if they find passion in the things that they do, it becomes a continuous thing, right? It doesn't like, oh, let me just help this one time, or you know, or I tried to help but it's not working. But if it aligns with everything that you do in some way, shape, or form, you're gonna that becomes, you see what I mean? Like, and so I think that and Randy, I can send some information every time that I learn about, you know, some informal rallies or something like that, because I know that they'll be having a few going on, to see if anybody wants to show up, because those are really, really beneficial.
So can I ask a follow-up question? What is the one or two things that you would like people who didn't grow up in the urban core to understand?
People just need to understand that the Black community has had it hard their whole lives. And that even though we are trying to grow, there are things that are in place that is not allowing us to, you know, and that I need people to just understand that it's not that we can go out and go get a loan because we tried, right? Like there's not like we can go get a home because we tried. And so I just need people to understand that we're trying to do it. And that if you understand that part, like for instance, I have a friend that told me that he didn't grow up with a lot, but his parents had a house, right? And so he said that in his mind, if I had a house, then I did better, right? And so our stories isn't going to be something people can understand because you didn't go through them. You see what I mean? Like, and that's the hard part. But you can also pay attention to the level of poverty in the neighborhoods and understand the difference. Understand that there's a reason why those look like that and these look like that. You know, lack of knowledge, lack of resources. Now, if I feel like if anybody from different communities want to go pour out all the resources, we could probably be a better community, right? But we're still finding resources. We're still, you know, we're still on the hunt for that equality when it comes to growth. Instead, we're literally stuck in like I have an 88-year-old grandma. I always tell people I have an 88-year-old grandma that sits at home all day. My grandma's been sitting at home for 40 years, right? Because the way she was brought up and the way she was raised, it was more safe to be at home. So she never grew out of that box. And so that is literally, we are trapped in a community because we were never accepted outside of it. And so if we're getting accepted, we need other people that aren't from our community to start having those conversations. That's it. Like I told somebody the other day, whether you like it or not, you should be tired of hearing it. Let's make it better. You know, you should be tired of seeing it, you know, because we have to have those conversations with our kids. You know, like at the end of the day, go ask a kid from the core how they feel. And most of them gonna say, man, I don't want to walk outside my door. And that is the reason why we're fighting so hard, because those words, you know, it hurts. but it's hard for me right now. It's just information, just learning. You know, if it's a movie on Netflix, if anyone's not watched it, called 13. It's very, very powerful, and it breaks down the whole systematic, you know, point of view in all levels and areas. I've watched it 5 days straight, and I've seen it when it first came out. But I think right now it's just time for information, and it's out there. Learn and then educate yourself, and then just shift your perspective. You talk about perspective, right? Like my perspective completely changed, right? Like the life I live now is not the life I lived before. So everybody, your viewpoints can shift just a little bit to have a level of empathy to say, okay, we all need to come together, because if I have this, then they should have it too. And it's not about the work ethic. It's not about none of that. There are just things that are in place that needs to change.
You said something to me once, and it was sad, but I know it's true. I've traveled the whole country. I've met people from every neighborhood probably in America, and there's good people everywhere. But you said when you saw yourself on the paper, it was the first time you had seen someone from your community portrayed as a positive role model and not a police report. You know, can't we all be intentional about promoting positive role models and just reminding the world that there are good people around us, and featuring them and promoting that, in our businesses, in schools, that you promote that there are positive role models from every walk of life.
Yeah, I mean, no, but that was very true, Randy. I was on the front page of the Kansas City Star, guys, and I was climbing the rope, and the whole city started calling me. All my friends, Facebook blew up, and we had never seen it. It was never. That was an accomplishment that literally wasn't shown. It was always in the paper. Your name was in the paper for being on the most wanted list, or something like that of Kansas City. But it wasn't ever a positive. Overcoming adversity, overcoming challenges. No, that was the moment that I knew that I could help change this city. And so, like you said, Randy, if we could acknowledge more positivity and represent those from communities that are doing something, it can highlight, and so I think that it becomes powerful. We lack acknowledgement and representation. And I think that's that too. If you have a young generation that can't see someone that they can, relate to or represent to, that they are lost. They're still trying to find identity, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you, Wesley, I appreciate you being here, and I really view you as a blessing from God, that you are a miracle, that there was no accident for you being here today, speaking to us, about your journey and what you've been through, because through what you've lived, you're going to be reaching many, many people and changing their lives. So I just appreciate you hearing him and following through with that. You could have went another direction, but you chose to hear him, and I thank you for that. And just wish you all the best going forward.
Hey man, I truly appreciate you, man. Thank you for listening, and thank you for just being able to give me that feedback. I appreciate it.
Hi, Wesley. Thank you very much for being on. I love your story and the amount you've done for every community that you've been a part of. So first of all, thank you. And second of all, I was wondering, as someone who lives in the suburbs, and there aren't protests outside my door. I'm wondering what can people that are outside the urban core and outside the Black community do to support the representation that you've said that is obvious, that is missing. In other words, what does a good ally look like to you?
I think a good ally is someone that's not afraid to just have the conversation right now. You know, that is that is important for us all right now. And it's just to have um, those conversations of to get uncomfortable, because then once you have those conversations, you can start to see maybe everyone's point of view and then come together to come up with a better solution, especially if it's people that you're aligned with. Because one, you don't want to go out and try to be an ally, and maybe there's someone that is their opinion matters, right? Not saying that it's you, but just say someone who has someone whose opinion matters. But not having a conversation to share your viewpoint allow that to be an issue too, and we don't want that, right? We know that this is a uncomfortable issue, period.
Right.
So I think that a good ally is someone that not only can just have conversations, but be a part of, like, I don't, I haven't really went to a lot of the protests, and I went to one night. So I don't see people having to be that forefront. My allies are just people that I believe that are just having conversations. I I could give more advice, but we're not at that time or shift to. I think the people in that community, those communities, need to put in that work first, and then those that are on the outside would then have those conversations to see how we can collaborate. But I think that right now, those that are on the outside should just have conversations. Just
Thank you.
have it, even if it's, hey man, let's go sit down and watch this movie and let's talk about it. Like, it's gonna be uncomfortable, but if there's somebody's reality that's next door to you or in an office next to you, you know what I mean? Like, when you have to understand, you will want to empathize. You wouldn't want to not, if they come in the office and they just witness someone get murdered on TV, trust me, it's traumatizing. And so, like, once you see it and say, oh man, I know what they're going, it's a little bit, that edge gets taken off. So yeah, man, right now conversations matter. Just like we having it right now, that's how you have a better understanding. Even if it's a dialogue, just open it up.
Wesley, appreciate you very much. Great story. And I needed to leave for a few minutes. So if I'm asking a question that you've already been asked, stop me. But I'm curious, what are you hearing from the youth, from the young people in the city and beyond Kansas City? And what message or messages are you communicating to the young people?
All right. So that's good. That's good. Right now, I think we're in 2020, so social media is on a whole different level. TV is different. And we just dealt with COVID and we're still dealing with it. So everybody's been at home, right? So let's throw that out first. So what you witness now, if you had that busy schedule, it might have been something that was overlooked, right? Like, just that's how it's been. So what we've been getting from the kids is fear. Just fear of now knowing the reality, because now those conversations are being told and talked about. You're starting to see more, like, as people of color, we don't try to teach our kids. We teach them the reality, but we try to still teach them respect and honor, and and try to do the right thing, right? And so when they see things like what you witness, it instills fear, because it's like, well, if I'm doing right and I can still, it's like, I do right and I die. I go out of my house and I can die, or it's just, and so that is really what we're getting. I get a lot of parents that reach out to me and it's like, how do I talk to my son about this? Maybe his father's in prison or his dad's in jail. It's just a reality. So right now, at least the young men are really scared, and I think that that's what you see when you see people acting out, is fear, because they feel like it's their reality. But as people of the community, our goal is for me, is to heal their mindsets. right? Like there's been a mindset created as well through systemic racism and, you know, all of trauma, right? And so with that, we try to bring them together. Actually, let me just be blunt. I'm actually working on a new initiative right now that's going to take my efforts that I do with Disabled But Not Really and focus on the urban core. Through fitness and nutrition, some education with some books, like really get really in depth. So like I have a couple people that I'm joining up with. That's our initiative right now. We're just trying to, we can't just talk to them no more. We have to teach them to be better people so that then their energy is different even in encounters. So like kind of like we're taking action and more just talking now, because those words of just saying, hey, do the right thing is something different. So I hope that answered.
No, very good. Thank you.
Wes, hey, this is Mike Kenny. I run a small nonprofit that helps veterans and first responders with PTS and stuff, but we follow, I'd say, a lot of the same modalities, you know, as I think you're getting after: fitness, nutrition, you know, meditation and mindfulness, some other things. So a lot of the things you're saying, I have to say, really resonate with me, you know, in terms of really helping people through some tough times. I want to say you're an inspiration, brother, to have such a positive attitude and having overcome all the adversity that you've overcome. You know, for me, it's inspirational. You know, I'll be honest, it kind of makes me want to be, you know, a better man and get after it. So I just want you to know I appreciate you, appreciate, you know, what you're doing, and really just being such a great role model. And as you said, you can talk, and that's great. And there's no paucity of people that love to talk, but you're a doer, and that comes shining through. God bless you, man.
Hey man, I appreciate it, man. Well, look, man, you know, I always tell people every day is a new day to just be better. You know, you never want to be the same. So if today I'm encouraging you to be a better man, that's just because you was destined to do it anyway. You know, so man, I truly appreciate you for just taking your time and listening.
Have you had any success stories of folks you met who were defeated, and you know, through Disabled But Not Really, you've been able to help them see, you know, something new inside themselves and maybe reach a new level?
Oh man, I think are consistent athletes, right? Like, you know, when you deal with people with disabilities, you have off and on, but we have some people that are really ready to take control of their life. A lot of them have been maybe having their disability for a longer time as well, so they've accepted. But no, I have a friend, his name is Patrick, and his bio is on our website. All of their bios and stories are on the website, but Patrick, he was electrocuted and fell off a ladder on a work accident, and that's how he was paralyzed. And so Patrick had the mindset that he just hated himself, and so we actually got a testimony of him, a video, and he just hated who he had became. And ironically, when I did my first bodybuilding competition, I had made a GoFundMe, and Patrick had donated $500 to my GoFundMe. And at this point, I never knew this man. This is early in the years, you know. So after a while, he started seeing what I created, because going to the bodybuilding comp actually was the pivot for me to really engage in the Disabled But Not Really, into fitness and nutrition. And so he opened that gap. So basically, I've allowed Patrick to accept who he is and become better for his wife and his daughter. And one of the things he tell me is that he had made his investment for me to change his life before I even knew it. You know, because it was 4 years down the line that he started going through our program. But he had donated that money early that opened my eyes up to what we could create. And so outside of him, we have a girl named Katie. She does tennis, and she just wanted to be better in tennis. And she's lost weight, and she's became so active that now she just goes through the group classes with the able-bodied athletes at the gym now. So it's pretty amazing to see when you challenge yourself mentally, the results that it does for you physically, and the way that it allows you to be more motivated to do it continuously. And so with that, our Help Me Fit Challenge is an 8-week program. And when our athletes graduate, they go directly over to the gym, which they get a scholarship to continue going for the longevity that they want. We had our very first blind athlete last year in October. He graduated. His name is Dorville, and he sings on Facebook. He sings, like, so if you have a birthday on Facebook and he's your friend, he sings to you, and it's the most amazing thing. He's the brightest thing ever. And you know, when he came to the gym, he never thought that he could do physical fitness because he's been blind his whole life, and nobody opened that door for him. And so, you know, to watch him do movements, you know, and start to learn, and now to see, you know, he took the fitness and just got stronger mentally in the abilities that he could do. And that is a beautiful story to me, because now you see that when he sings, he even sings louder and prouder. So Darville is a beautiful soul.
That's awesome. I think you've said probably half a dozen times on here today some variation of deciding to make a change in your life. And so I think, you know, when you and I've talked before, it really is up to you to decide. And every person on here on this call today can decide that there's something we can go do to be better. We don't have to wait for someone to encourage us. We don't have to look at the obstacles. We just got to decide.
We just got to decide what you want. When you look in, I always tell people, every day you have to think about how you want to live your life, not how people want you to live it. And so if you're living a life that people want you to live it, you have to change because you're not happy. And so in order for you to be happy and be free, you have to live your true, authentic self. And you have to wear it every day by being proud of who you are. And that starts with change. That changes your perspective by being willing to say, I don't want to live by the opinion of others anymore. I'm going to live with who I believe I am. And I tell you right now, the world will eventually gravitate to who you are and be okay with that.
Are there some specific action items? I mean, are there some specific things from your vantage point that we can do collectively and maybe even communicate to other people that can be accomplished, or some action items and things that we can do to move things forward? Because I think most people, I like to believe that we all have a good heart and we want to do good things.
Dialogue is good, but education matters right now. And then just being behind the top tier organizations or something like that's always been doing something, right? Like, you don't want kind of the ones that are popping up, but the ones that really are taking effect on the legislation and the laws and like, you can encourage people to vote different. You know, sometimes it's laws that are put in place that are created for, defeat. Like, I would suggest the movie 13th on Netflix. And so if you watch that, you'll actually really figure out what actions need to be taken. Like, seriously, because it breaks it all the way down. So, like, if you find that education or that book or that resource, I think it'll open your eyes.
Yeah, and one final question. I've seen your bodybuilding photo. Would you please publicize your ab workout? I would really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, man, I try.
Thank you.
Well, no problem, man. Appreciate you.
Well, I have unmuted everyone. Let's all give Wesley a big thank you. I mean,
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
It was awesome,
Wesley, you're the
Wesley.
best.
Well, look, I appreciate you guys. Thank everyone for tapping in. Thank you for the messages. I've been seeing you guys leaving messages in the chat. But yeah, I think that if you take anything from my story is, you know, once you really find and be okay with letting the world know your true authentic self, then you won't be forced to have people gravitate to you, and you can start to do everything that you're destined to do. I think that that's everybody's mission. So we should all just start today, because that's the way we can heal the world, when we know ourselves.